Hi everyone, welcome to Talk Sustain to Me. This sustainability career series is about career stories in the sustainability or the ESG sector. In each episode, I interview a young sustainability professional who is in their early or mid-career. The main intention of this talk is to promote the sustainability industry and share career information. I'm happy to have Vaughn joining us today. Vaughn is now a research assistant at Civic Exchange, focusing on transition finance development in the Greater Bay Area. Vaughn is involved in a theme-based research related to sustainable development with the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. Throughout his study, he also publishes sustainable finance blogs on LinkedIn and major newspapers in Hong Kong. He's here with us today to share more about working at a sustainability think tank. Hi, Vaughn. Thanks for joining today.
Hi, Natalie. Thanks for inviting me.
Could you start by introducing yourself? Like, how did you get into the sustainability think tank sector that you're working at right now?
Why I joined think tank industry, I'm not sure that whether it is an industry, but it's more a type of organization.
Right.
It's back to 2020 when my boss wants you came to our campus and share talk about the think tank and the project he's doing. I find I was a connection of passion, and then I just come into his just go into his office or whatever and just say, hey Lawrence, I totally agree with what you said in talk, and then I hear some of my blogs of green finance.
Mhm.
Please have a look. And then at that time I'm not seeking a job. I just more like to see to be like a to make friends with him, and he just suddenly asked me, do you want to get a job in Civic Exchange? I'm like, hell yeah. I'm like, why not? And then I don't even have any interview process. He just asked me a simple question, and then I just say, sure, it would be great to be an intern. Then that starts. And then in between, I've left Civic Exchange for 1 to 2 years.
Mhm.
Two, yeah. Officially, I've left Civic Exchange for other internship. I've been a banking intern of social finance and ESG consultant intern, but at the daytime, I work at those interns, but at the nighttime, I always chat with him and help with some of his project. Enormously. So this is kind of my story of why I joined this like industry and why I end up in Civic Exchange now.
Right. So, as you know, there are many types of jobs in the sustainability field. So, like for me, I'm more at a sustainability consulting side, while there are also jobs in the in-house sustainability department, maybe rating agencies, or green business startups, NGOs, or the public sector like the government. And you are working at a very unique field. It's a think tank. So, from your personal experience, what's so unique about working at a think tank, and what's the best part of it, especially in terms of exposure or maybe career growth?
Sure. So let's understand what is think tank first. And when we call something as a tank, you usually expect something inside it, right? You got a food tank, so you got food inside it. You got a, I don't know, cash tank, and then you got cash inside the tank. So when we kind of like think tank is by definition is more like to say that organization have a group of experts
Right.
and a group of more likely to say professional in this industry to gather inside an organization, and then they think. This is kind of like my kind of like casual definition of think tank. And then what is unique about think tank is that I meet lots of great people in Civic Exchange. Particularly, we have a philosophy that we bring different stakeholders, different voice inside one organization to discuss particular topics. Now, I've met lots of great people from the banking side, from the government sides, and from the business sides as well. And so it's more likely to say I experience like different sides of point of view in just simple events. Let's say the project I'm working on now, the transition finance project, I know not only know or learn the perspective of the bankers, I know also learn the perspective of the the corporate side and also the academia. So this is what I call a think tank and the advantage of working in think tank.
Thanks a lot. So it's really unique to work at a research side or sustainability think tank. Here, I want to learn more about like your current job. What's your responsibility as a researcher? And can you share any projects or topics that you're focusing on right now?
So I'm currently leading a project of transition finance, and by I mean leading, I someone work with me, but I more likely to say, like giving out ideas and then someone to like comment on my ideas and then like build a structure of reports. And in Civic Exchange or in my kind of like job role, we create reports, research reports. What I'm kind of like doing right now is like investigating the topic of transition finance and taxonomy developments in Hong Kong and GBA. Then my role is more like to say I kind of like interact with other stakeholders and then gather their kind of like thoughts on this kind of topics and then their insights, and they generate into one section or reports and then compare what their thoughts and what's are going on in the sector and what's are going on in different standard development, and see can we identify knowledge gap or I would say kind of like a loopholes between can I say it's a loophole, or I would stick to knowledge gap. Is there any knowledge gap between topics or between understandings among people? But this is what I kind of like working for. And concurrently, I'm working for like 1 to 2 professors in HKUST about like sustainable transition or transition finance. So I kind of like I mean, in the daytime, I go to Civic Exchange, I go to office to work, and then at the end of the working time, I head back to HKUST and find a professor and work together on those research topic. And I kind of like find this, although the style is different, academic research and think tank research is totally different. I can still find a commonalities areas or similar way to kind of like link both work in between.
Yeah, that's great. So you mentioned that it's pretty different between academic research and research at a policy think tank. So what are the major differences?
So the focus and the topic I would say the difference is academic area, you need the theory behind. Everything links back to the theory. You need to have a strong like theory base when you say something out or create a piece. But for think tank research, theory is important, but it's not the most important part of our piece. It's more likely to say that the opinion of different stakeholders, this is what matters in think tank. Yeah, the most distinct part is that in think tank we need to gather different opinions from different stakeholders, but in academic like paper, we just do literature review, then it will be fine. Of course, we got interview pieces for academic like paper, but at the very beginning, we need to stick back to the theory first.
Right. So yeah, that's a really good explanation. Like it's different between academic and think tank research. It's especially different in terms of how you approach, how you work towards the topics. I know that you are also very experienced with the sustainable and green finance topics. Can you share more about what's sustainable finance, and can you explain more about it?
Well, I'm not. I won't say I'm experienced. I'm sure that someone is more experienced than me. I got a bit of exposure, I would say, in this field. I would say, let's talk about green finance first. We need to. There's no official. First of all, there's no official definition on what is sustainable finance or green finance. I got my kind of like own philosophy or own definition of green finance when I learned. It's like we can divide it into greening finance and financing green. Greening finance is more likely to say is about the policy and the disclosure and an entire system of markets. Let's see, can we have more kind of climate disclosure? Can we have more kind of regulation to ensure that people are like disclosing what they did and kind of like, or I would say complying the law, the enterprise, or complying some sort of environmental law. And financing green is more likely to say like by what you hear is just giving capital to the green projects. So I kind of like divide the definition of green finance into these two categories. And then for sustainable finance is something similar, I would say. It's a bigger branch. Uh, Green finance only focus on environmental issue, but sustainable finance might be, I mean, they may focus on some of the social issue, or I would say the kind of like the society or the culture issue. There's a
Right.
bigger umbrella. And then for sustainable finance, I would say it's the same categorization of what I said before for the green finance. It's more like to say making the finance system more sustainable and then financing the sustainability issues. So it's like a simple definition, or I don't say a definition, just a description of what I know or what I understand about green and sustainable finance.
It's interesting to know that under green finance, there are two categories, like greening finance and financing green.
It's not official. It's not official.
But then it's really an interesting way to learn and like understand the concept of green finance. And as for sustainable finance, it's not only focusing on environmental issues, but it's also about like society and the culture. And it's also about making finance more sustainable. Yeah, that's really an interesting approach to understand these concepts. So, speaking of green or sustainable finance, can you share what are the current or upcoming trends of green finance, especially in the scope of Hong Kong, Asia, or the global market?
Sure. So I think your friends have told you that HKEX is doing a consultation about mandatory climate disclosure.
Right.
Then they're like kind of like reacting or responding to the upcoming ISSB disclosure system. One thing about Hong Kong and China in general or the globe is they develop lots. I mean, the increasing trend of market are developing their own taxonomies. Then by what you may ask, what is taxonomy? I would say it is a complicated like topic, but I give a simple answer by asking a simple question. So how do you define green, or how do you define transition? I mean, the green finance market has been developed since 2008. The first green bond is issued at 2008 by World Bank, if I remember correctly. But till now, there's no such a definition of what is green. The taxonomy answer this simple question by listing out a list of activities or threshold that define, okay, you pass this threshold, pass this requirement, then you can claim this project is green in the green bond market or the green finance market. So the taxonomy, the function of taxonomy is this, and different markets are developing their own taxonomy or aligning some of the taxonomy. For instance, the Hong Kong market, the CASG, the Cross Agency of Sustainability, blah, blah, blah. I forgot the whole name of CASG, so sorry about that. The CASG announced that Hong Kong will be adopting a taxonomy that align with the common ground taxonomy, which reference back to the EU and the China's one. This is a kind of like upcoming trend of Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. And then globally speaking, there's it's not a new term actually, but people just kind of like suddenly go back to that term and say it's new. It's not new for me. It's a blended finance. So it's more like strategic use of the public finance to mobilize additional like a private finance. It's focusing more on the developing countries. For instance, I would say, let's say in Africa, the solar development. I would say just say for the solar development in Africa is lagging behind because of a lack of initial private investments, because the private market doesn't really trust on the market, and the public market kind of like initiates some money in it, and then by time consents on the capital. This is why I say example of blended finance, but there are much more in this topic, but it's something rising. And then the TNFD,
Right, yeah.
the Task Force of Nature Disclosure. Lots of things going on. Yeah, these are the trends that I hope, the audience can look at and investigate on.
So you've explained what's green taxonomies. You've explained it really well. So green taxonomies is kind of defining what is green, what is a green project and what is not. And you also mentioned some global trends regarding green finance. You mentioned TNFD. Well, here, can I ask one more last final question? So can you explain what is TNFD? And we also always hear about TCFD. And so what are the connections between the two?
So it's much different, but the structure of reporting is similar. TCFD, they focus more on the entire climate change or climate risk,
Right.
climate opportunity in funds organization, and is launched at 2017, if I remember correctly. Till now, there are more like 6 years of developments, and the TCFD have involved a lot already. And then TCFD is the more like a base or foundation of ISSB. And for TNFD, it's focused more on the nature-based like risks of an enterprise. Let's say it focuses more on how your operation affect the nature and other way around how the nature affects your kind of like your operation. So it's much different. It's two bunch of things. I mean, there are 4 alphabet, right? And 3 alphabet are the same, but turns out it's totally different. And then but I would say that the kind of like the method of disclosure and also the method of reporting, they're kind of the same in a good way. That if people kind of like they can get along with TCFD reporting style, by changing the topic, they can get along with the TNFD reporting style. So the topics are different. What inside is totally different, but I'll say the approach of the delivery are similar.
Right. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. So today you've explained about how it's like working at a sustainability think tank, and I've also learned a lot more about sustainable and green finance. So thank you so much for your time. For anyone who is interested in learning more, feel free to connect Bon on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned and see you in the next video.